In today's video, we'll explore 5 practical tips to help you reduce anxiety and regain control over your inner peace. Anxiety can stem from work, relationships, or the many unpredictable moments life throws at us. But what matters most is not letting that stress drain your energy or define your day. To begin, I'll share a short story about an ordinary man, someone like you and me, who often found himself overwhelmed by daily stress and anxiety. One day, through an unexpected experience, he discovered a powerful way to calm his mind. That moment became a turning point and taught him a lesson he'd carry for the rest of his life. After the story, I'll walk you through 5 simple, effective techniques to manage anxiety and find clarity, even in life's most chaotic moments. If you find this message helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little peace today. Let's grow together on this journey toward calm and clarity. Let's dive in. The story of Anu. Anu had always been a nervous person. Even as a child, he grew up in a chaotic home with parents who constantly argued and made him feel insecure. This caused him to develop excessive fears and worries about any situation. If he got a bad grade, if he was late somewhere, if he made a mistake in something, he would quickly become distressed, thinking about the terrible consequences that might occur. As an adult, this anxious behavior was exacerbated even more. Any minor frustration would easily make him explode in outbursts of anger or endless laments. He complained about everything, about work, traffic, the country's economy. He felt never satisfied, always wishing things were different. His mind was like a whirlwind, jumping uncontrollably from one distressing thought to another. He imagined all kinds of catastrophic scenarios, both personally and socially. If his partner was late, he immediately assumed something bad had happened to her. If he read news about rising prices, he immediately thought a deep economic crisis was coming. At night, he found it very difficult to fall asleep, obsessively ruminating on his worries. Even when he managed to fall asleep, his rest was light and fragmented, plagued by restless dreams about all the responsibilities that overwhelmed him. He would wake up tired, but his mind would quickly start churning again, preventing him from savoring the stillness of dawn. This constant anguish increasingly poisoned his existence. Despite his life being objectively stable, internally he felt on the verge of collapse. Everything irritated him greatly, the slightest noise, the smallest inconvenience. He lived in a state of permanent urgency and drama. His anxiety not only affected him, but also his loved ones. He easily argued with his partner and children over trivialities, unable to control his outbursts. Then he would feel guilty, which fed his worries even more in an endless cycle. Deeply unhappy, Anu felt trapped in his own mind like a caged lion going around and around. What was the point of living like this? Distressed all the time. Was there no way out? He reached the point of feeling that nothing was worth it if he was going to continue suffering so much. He had to change or he would go crazy. One warm spring morning, on one of those days when pressure was squeezing his chest, he decided to skip work and go for a walk in the park to clear his mind. As he walked along the tree-lined paths, listening to the birds chirping, he still felt that tireless torrent of thoughts tormenting him. Then, when crossing a bridge, he came face to face with a Buddhist monk with a shaved head and an orange robe who smiled kindly at him. Anu was disconcerted upon encountering that strange monk in the middle of the park. For an instant, his frantic thoughts ceased before the vision he had in front of him. "Good morning," the monk greeted him with a serene voice. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lobsang." "Oh, hello, I'm Anu," he responded awkwardly. "Pleased to meet you, Anu. I see great suffering reflected in your eyes. Something seems to worry you extremely," said Lobsang with great compassion. Anu sighed deeply, feeling he could trust the monk's comforting presence. He decided to open his heart for the first time in a long time. He recounted the internal struggles that tormented him every day, his mind always looking for problems and magnifying them. He also told him about his outbursts of anger, the permanent tension in which he lived. "I've tried everything to change, but I can't. I feel I'm at my limit. This anxiety is driving me crazy," he said, on the verge of tears. Lobsang placed a hand on Anu's shoulder in support. "Dear friend, I know that feeling very well. Many of us experience it nowadays, leading such busy lives, but you don't have to suffer it anymore. There are ways to appease that inner storm." The monk explained that in his temple, located in the nearby mountains, they taught meditation, yoga, breathing techniques, all to calm the agitation of the 21st century. He himself had arrived there years ago, also with a deep emotional exhaustion that had brought him to the edge of the precipice. But the teachings of the masters transformed him, finding an eye of the hurricane amid the vortex of the modern world. Anu listened attentively, feeling that a new universe of possibilities was opening before him. Perhaps this was the solution. He had been desperately seeking all these years. He didn't think twice. The next day he would go to that retreat in the mountains to learn from the monks. Lobsang gave him precise directions to get there and bid him farewell, saying, "Have faith. The peace you seek is already within you. You just need the tools to connect deeply with your true inner self. See you soon, my friend." On his way to his car, Anu felt a lightness in his body that he hadn't experienced in years. It was as if a great weight had been lifted from him. He knew his journey was just beginning, but a seed of hope had been planted in his heart. For the first time, he glimpsed the possibility of healing. Upon arriving at the temple that weekend, he was greeted by Lobsang with a strong embrace. They had prepared a simple but cozy room for him, with a bed, a small desk and windows, with panoramic views of the surrounding snowy mountains. After unpacking his small bag, Anu participated in his first collective meditation in the central courtyard, the harmonious chanting of the monks transporting him to a state of stillness he had never experienced before. Initially, Anu found meditation very difficult. He was used to his mind being a whirlwind of uncontrolled thoughts, so it was very hard for him to keep it focused on a single thing, like his breathing. The first few days, he spent his time struggling against that endless flow of ideas and worries. That dragged him like a stormy river. However, the monks taught him not to get frustrated. They explained that it was normal for his mind to wander. What's important is knowing when we've dispersed and gently bringing attention back to the present moment. Little by little, Anu began integrating that compassionate attitude toward himself. In the yoga and tai chi sessions, he also struggled to concentrate on the postures and movements. His muscles were so tense from stress that at first he couldn't even stretch his back well. But again, he didn't push himself, respecting his own limits without forcing himself. During silent meals, he tried to eat slowly and mindfully, perceiving the textures and flavors, although sometimes the thread of his thoughts would drag him away, getting lost in daydreams. When that happened, he gently returned to the present with much patience and without pressuring himself. He continued advancing step by step in his introspective process and gradually began to notice significant changes. During meditation periods, he managed to connect for longer with the inner stillness beneath the mental whirlwind, and in his daily life, when anxious thoughts appeared, he quickly recognized that he had dispersed and returned to the current moment. This made him gradually begin to feel more centered, with a growing sense of peace despite the normal ups and downs of existence. Small things no longer threw him off balance as much. Passing crises didn't overwhelm him as before. He flowed more smoothly in the face of the unexpected. After a month, Anu was pleasantly surprised to notice the internal transformation he had undergone. Although outwardly his life hadn't changed much, inwardly he felt completely different. One afternoon after meditation, he had a deep conversation with Lobsang. The monk, proud of his progress, wanted to convey a final message. "Dear Anu, you have worked very hard on yourself, and the fruits are clearly beginning to show. But remember, when you leave here and return to the dizzying everyday world, don't be distressed if you feel you're lagging in your spiritual growth. There will be days when you connect easily with your inner stillness, but there will also be days of relapse when it seems you've gone back to the beginning. Don't be discouraged or judge yourself in those moments. Keep looking ahead with benevolence. The path is long, but now you have the tools to walk it. Trust that difficult periods will pass like fleeting clouds. I know you will keep alive the flame of peace you have found. Go ahead, my friend. May your path be full of deep joy." Deeply moved by his words, Anu embraced the monk in a sign of eternal gratitude, knowing he would apply his teachings for the rest of his days. His internal battle had finally ended. He was ready to make the journey back home. After 3 months immersed in the temple's teachings, the time had come for Anu to return home. Although part of him wished to stay in the stillness and peace of the mountains, he understood that he needed to go back to face the worldly noise to test all his learning. On his last walk with Lobsang before leaving, the monk gave him a small carved wooden box. Upon opening it, Anu found a beautiful beaded necklace similar to those used by Buddhist devotees. "This mala of jade beads I made especially for you," Lobsang explained. "Each bead represents a spiritual quality to cultivate in your daily life: compassion, equanimity, love, forgiveness. Always use it as a reminder to look within. Thus the peace you found here will remain alive in your heart wherever you go." Anu embraced him with tears in his eyes, without words to express his enormous gratitude. After heartfelt goodbyes, he set off back to the city. loaded with tools, inspired to begin the next chapter of his life. Upon arriving home, he was effusively received by his family, who noticed he had changed. There was no longer anger or irritation on his face. He radiated a contagious calm. The first few days he strived to incorporate short meditations between his tasks and maintain mindful attention when performing each everyday activity, no matter how insignificant it might be. When the phone rang or he had to attend to various chores, he would pause first, exercising patience. However, after a week of returning to the work hustle, he began to feel overwhelmed. Pressing deadlines, his boss's demands, chaotic traffic again caused his serenity to falter at times. His mind would easily shoot off again toward worries, bombarded by stimuli from all sides. Noticing his internal struggle, his partner Lakshmi prepared a special corner for him to meditate, with cushions, incense, Tibetan bowls. This helped Anu reconnect with his center when arriving exhausted from work. He also began using the jade mala to redirect attention to his breathing when feeling anxiety. Little by little, this new version of himself, more tolerant, compassionate, and equanimous, integrated into his hectic routine. Although certain things still irritated him at the office, he managed to calm down quickly without it ruining his day. When unforeseen circumstances arose, he faced them with determination, instead of complaining anxiously. After a few weeks of ups and downs, he felt he was getting back on track and finding a certain balance between his personal growth and external demands, flowing more smoothly between both poles of his existence. One afternoon after meditating, he had a visceral certainty. He would never again let the mental whirlwind govern his life. He had emerged from darkness and would not allow that to happen again. With loving patience, he would continue pressing that inner key of light and calm, even amid the most stormy adversity. Several years had passed since Anu ventured into the monk's teachings. Now, with perspective, he could look back and realize how much he had grown from that tormentuous starting point when anxiety strictly governed his existence. Although his current life was far from perfect, he had incorporated a set of spiritual principles that allowed him to navigate the daily storms in a completely different way. He no longer identified so much with that reactive being dominated by his emotions and thoughts. He had developed inner muscles to not be dragged so easily by the current of external ups and downs. Instead of desperately seeking for things to be a specific way to find happiness, he had learned to cultivate it from within, embracing the totality of the human experience. That didn't mean that adversity or pain didn't impact him, but that he had incorporated resources to metabolize them in a healthier way, without sinking so deeply into suffering. The beaded mala that he still always carried with him had come to become an organic reminder to pause frequently and turn attention inward, to connect compassionately with that space of stillness beneath the mental whirlwind which began to expand progressively. He no longer struggled against himself or against life. When difficulties arose, he faced them responsibly, but without that emotional turbulence that used to paralyze him. He clearly understood that fighting against what is only generates more pain, while flowing smoothly with existence, no matter how challenging it may be, allows discovering unsuspected internal resources. At times, his old patterns threatened to return, that complaining and fearful voice in his head wanting to undermine the equanimity achieved. But he no longer identified with it, nor feared it. He recognized it simply as a residual habit and quickly returned to the sanctuary of peace in his chest, to that inner home where no external anxiety could disturb. Once you touched it, it was impossible to confuse that serene joy that is born from within with the fleeting pleasures of the outside world. He approached life naturally, like someone walking in the rain, without obstinately demanding that it stop. Raining, gracefully incorporating the light and dark of existence. That was now his motto, the compass that guided his journey. One afternoon, years later, he visited the temple in the mountains again to express his gratitude. Crossing gazes, again with his old friend Lobsang, they needed no words. They knew in their depths that this long journey to find the longed-for serenity had been worth every step of the tortuous path. Blessed are those who manage to tame the inner storm, not because they stop experiencing tempests, but because they learn to connect with the indestructible stillness of the eye in the middle of the hurricane. From there, life is viewed in a very different way. 5 tips to relax anxiety. As we saw in Anu's story, meditation and other contemplative practices can transform our lives if we embrace them with constancy and loving patience. Just as he discovered, there exists within us an oasis of stillness, always accessible. It simply requires that we cultivate an attentional musculature to connect deeply with that space of peace beneath the mental hustle. The 5 tips to relax anxiety shared here aim precisely at this, providing us with simple tools so that we can calm the internal turbulence. These are acts of love toward ourselves that allow us to navigate the inevitable storms of existence with greater tranquility. Just as Anu found understanding and support from the monks to transcend his distressing struggles, we can lovingly shelter ourselves. We all deserve friendly hands to help us through difficult times. Let's be those hands. Let's be those kind internal whispers reminding us of our inner strength. Practical tip 1. Meditation. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools to reduce anxiety levels and achieve a durable and deep state of calm. It consists of intentionally focusing our attention, training our mind to develop greater awareness, and be able to enjoy the present moment. There are numerous variants of meditation, but one of the most accessible for beginners is based on centering all our consciousness on breathing. To achieve this, sit with a straight spine in a quiet and silent place with eyes gently closed. Place one hand on your abdomen to feel the movement of your breathing. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply through the nose, feeling how air enters and leaves your lungs, expanding your ribcage. Your mind will begin to fire thoughts automatically, as it always does. This is completely normal. Don't force them to disappear or fight with them. Simply, as soon as you notice your attention has deviated from breathing, bring it back with kindness and patience to the nasal sensations of air entering and leaving. With regular practice, minutes will turn into hours in which you manage to keep your consciousness anchored in something as simple as breathing without letting yourself be dragged by the mental whirlwind. And you will discover wonderful benefits. Intrusive thoughts and worries that generate anxiety are drastically reduced. You stop feeding them. You come into contact with a very restorative space of stillness and inner peace that has always been there but wasn't perceived. Your capacity for concentration and focus improves, being able to perform daily tasks with more fullness. You strengthen the connection between body and mind, reducing muscle tension and agitation. Your interpersonal relationships become more conscious and loving. You respond instead of reacting. Even starting with 5-minute sessions has positive effects. With constancy and dedication, you will see significant changes in a short time, becoming more resilient to life's stress. Practical tip 2. Yoga and mindful exercises. Yoga and mindful exercises are an effective way to release physical and mental tensions to counteract the effects of anxiety. Unlike mere physical training, in these practices there is a component of full attention, linking body movements with the flow of breathing. A simple yoga routine to relieve anxiety can be the following. Begin in mountain position, standing with feet firmly on the yoga mat and arms at the sides of your body with palms facing forward. Take 3 deep breaths. Next, inhale and raise your arms toward the ceiling. Exhale and move your torso forward to touch the tips of your toes, keeping your back long. Inhale again, lifting the torso. Exhale and gently turn to the right to stretch the sides. Return to center. Repeat toward the other side. Then lean back for a gentle arch. Use your abdominal muscles, not the lower back. Return slowly to mountain position. Another option is a series of 15 mindful squats. Inhale to descend, exhale to rise, maintaining concentration on bodily sensations. The benefits are enormous. Greater feeling of calm and relaxation, balancing sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, improved breathing pattern, becoming deeper and more conscious, release of endorphins that produce a feeling of well-being, reduction of contractures and muscle pains due to accumulated tensions, promotes concentration, focusing the mind on postures and breathing, connects body, mind, and spirit in an integral way. Even 10 minutes a day practicing regularly will make an abysmal difference. Practical tip 3. Don't struggle against emotions. One of the most common mistakes we humans make is trying to suppress emotions that are unpleasant or painful to us, such as anxiety, fear, or sadness. However, this internal struggle and resistance only intensifies and prolongs them over time. The invitation is to adopt an attitude of loving and compassionate acceptance toward everything we experience internally. Emotions are neither good nor bad. They simply arise and go like waves in the ocean. They don't define who you really are, but when you struggle and cling to them, they become storms that ruin your peace. An effective method is to imagine that each emotion or thought that appears is like a passing cloud in the sky. Clouds don't have the ability to harm you. They constantly change shape, adopting an infinity of appearances. If a dark cloud is in your internal sky now, a crisis, an intense fear, don't fight to remove it. Don't demand it leave before its time. Welcome it and let it dilute at its own pace. Eventually, it will dilute until it disappears when the time comes. Loving patience is the key without struggling, like when you care for a sick child, without pressuring them to heal instantly, by ceasing to internally oppose what flows within. Little by little, a sensation of equanimity and balance settles in. You gain confidence that no matter what emotional storm arrives, you can surf it with ease without sinking. Your true nature will emerge, that immutable and calm part of you beneath the changing clouds. Practical tip 4. Self-compassion and patience with oneself. Self-compassion is the antidote against fierce and impatient self-criticism that only worsens anxiety. It consists of treating ourselves with the same understanding, care, and unconditional support that we would give to a friend or beloved family member who was going through a bad time. It's common to demand ourselves in an unrealistic way, believing that we should feel perfect and happy at every moment. When that doesn't occur, the internal voice becomes vicious, blaming us. "Overcome this already, I'm a disaster for feeling like this," we tell ourselves. Self-compassion is interrupting that cruel monologue to speak to ourselves with more affection and sensitivity about our suffering. For example, if you panic before a job interview, you could caress an arm while saying to yourself warmly, "I know you're very scared about this challenge you face, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed. But you're not alone. I'm here taking care of you and accompanying you." By looking at ourselves with deep kindness, we recognize our shared humanity. Everyone goes through crises. No one evades them. There's nothing wrong with us. Rather, we require more internal patience, support, and encouragement. As an effect, the feeling of isolation decreases and courage to face challenges increases because we know we have our own unconditional backing. It's like having a guardian angel by our side. Practical tip 5. Connection with nature and relaxing stimuli. When we feel anxious and overwhelmed, our environment exerts an enormous influence on our internal states. Environments of chaos and sensory overstimulation intensify anguish, while harmonic spaces have a powerful calming effect. Going outdoors and admiring the beauty of nature is a simple way to give rest to our senses and connect with inner stillness. You can start by establishing a daily ritual of at least half an hour in direct contact with natural elements, be it in a park, garden, or simply sitting on the sidewalk of your house to observe the sky and listen to ambient sounds. Pay full attention to everything your senses capture: the fragrance of flowers, the singing of birds, the softness of the breeze on your skin, the majesty of trees swaying. Place your hands on the earth and reconnect with the vibration of life from the planet that sustains us. Take deep inhalations, completely filling your lungs, and feel how nature infuses energy and vitality within you. Another option is to recreate mini-sensory oases of relaxation at home, listening to calming sounds like soft mental music or the murmur of the sea while inhaling aromatic essential oils like lavender or eucalyptus that decrease cortisol. By gently pampering our senses with natural stimuli that return us to harmony, internal turbulence is gradually appeased, recovering the ability to flow in peace with what exists just as it is. Like Anu, we all carry within us the capacity to find stillness, even in the midst of life's greatest storms. The 5 tools we've explored: meditation, mindful movement, emotional acceptance, self-compassion, and reconnection with nature are not just temporary fixes, but lifelong practices that cultivate resilience, wisdom, and deep serenity. Anxiety may arise, as it does for every human being, but it no longer has to control us. When we train our minds through meditation, we discover that beneath the turbulence of thoughts and emotions, there is an unshakable calm, a quiet awareness that remains undisturbed, like the depths of the ocean beneath surface waves. When we move our bodies with mindfulness, we release stored tension and reconnect with the present moment, grounding ourselves in the here and now. Most importantly, we learn to meet ourselves with kindness. Instead of battling our emotions, we allow them to flow through us without resistance, understanding that they are temporary visitors, not permanent truths. We replace self-criticism with self-compassion, recognizing that suffering is part of the human experience and that we deserve our own gentleness. And when we immerse ourselves in nature, we remember that we are part of something greater, a vast and harmonious existence that moves at its own natural rhythm. This is not a quick fix, but a way of living. Some days will be easier than others. There will be moments when old habits return, when stress feels overwhelming, when the mind races uncontrollably. But with each small step, each mindful breath, each conscious pause, each act of self-kindness, we strengthen our ability to return to peace. The greatest lesson Anu learned was not that life would become perfect, but that he could be at peace within imperfection. True freedom comes not from eliminating challenges, but from changing our relationship with them. When we stop fighting reality and instead learn to flow with it, we discover an unshakable strength, one that no external circumstance can destroy. So begin where you are. You don't need to meditate for hours or achieve some ideal state of enlightenment. Start with one conscious breath. Start with one moment of self-compassion. Start with one step into nature. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and every step counts. The peace you long for is not somewhere else. It is here now, waiting within you. You only need to pause, turn inward, and remember. May your path be guided by patience, your heart be softened by kindness, and your spirit be steadied by the unshakable stillness that has always been yours. With gratitude, Daily Dharma.